Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep to stories slower than time itself. Somewhere outside the gates, before the world stirs, a disciple wakes. Not Peter, not Mary, just someone nearby. The stone streets are silent, dew gathering at the edges of every step. The cool before dawn has its own hush. Old walls catch the blue hint of morning. Linen lies folded on a low bench, corners meeting with the kind of care kept for holy days or for sorrow. There is nothing in the room that seeks to be remembered, and yet every shape is familiar. Someone shifts in their blanket, exhaling slow, silent as a prayer not spoken. In the courtyard, a jar of water leans against the wall. No one touches it yet. The water knows to wait. The doves know to stay quiet until called. A pair of sandals sits beside the threshold, dusted from yesterday's walk. Sand collects in the shape of small forgettings, the kind of mess that never asks to be fixed, just noticed. Somewhere nearby, the great stone is rolled away, but here, nothing moves. Hands smooth linen, one slow fold at a time. The texture is soft with use, corners all a little loose. There is no hurry, not now, just the gentle duty of tidying a quiet grief. A cool draft slips through the doorway, tracing a line across the floor. Someone breathes it in. Their lungs remember empty places are safe, too. The room creaks, wood stretching from a long, careful night. Let this moment stretch. A small bowl waits by the mat, filled yesterday, emptied the night before. Bread will not be made yet. The flour sits beneath its cloth, patient as sleep. The first bird stirs, a single note, quickly forgotten in the hush between footsteps. The world outside belongs to those who wake early out of habit, not hope. A woman steps lightly around the rug, lifting one corner to brush away yesterday's dust. She winces at the cold on her feet, then lets it stay, something honest about morning that roughens the soles. She breathes quietly, steady, as if trying not to wake the day before it's ready. A folded cloth waits on the stone ledge. Smaller than the burial wrappings, softer. The kind saved for faces, for washing, for blotting a tear when no one's looking. Hands move cloth to cloth without thought, because moving gently is the only thing left to do. The sounds outside are kind. A goat's muffled cough, sandals tapping away, distant laughter that does not quite reach the door. The world is wider and emptier than it was last night. Let even this silence be holy. Somewhere, someone whispers a name and lets it fall, gentle as linen to a floor. No one answers, but the room remembers the sound. There is the soft weight of waiting. Waiting for bread to rise, for sun to warm stone, for voices to return to the streets. Waiting for a story to make sense, not with fanfare, but with the quiet certainty of dawn. The linen lays folded on the bench. Someone runs their hand along the edge, smoothing, then smoothing again. Because this morning is not about what's missing, but what's left. A folded cloth, a half-empty bowl, an old rug creased at one corner. This is how hearts prepare before the world stirs, by not rushing into explanation. By letting the air fill with slow breaths, each one a kind of answer. You're allowed to rest here. To watch the sun climb the wall inch by inch and not say a word. No one will ask you for more than you have. Let the morning be ordinary. There is time enough for running, time enough for questions. Now, let your eyes close or open as they please. You don't need to stay awake for the story. It will stay awake for you. There is a kind of quiet that slips into a house once everyone has gone, not the silence of emptiness, but the hush of things finishing what hands began. In rooms holding yesterday's hush, linen waits quietly, softened from many washings, easy to lift. I like these hours best, sun leaning in at the edge of morning, not too strong, not looking for anyone in particular. I carry the basket of linen to the corner by the window, where dust gathers often, no matter how much I wipe. This is the corner closest to the courtyard, close enough to hear someone clear their throat or the soft clatter of a cup set down beside bread. But this morning it is only the snap of linen as I shake it free, the smallest cloud of flour from last night's folding drifting away. Folding linen is the slowest sort of work. Not like sweeping, where the bristles scuff and urge you ahead, or kneading, where your wrists ache and you lose your mind in the motion. This is softer, a bending of shape into order, corners to corners, edges to edges. I press with the heel of my hand, smoothing out the wrinkles that gathered in the dark. Every fold is the same, and yet not one was ever exactly like another. Linen remembers shadows, creases, and the bend of a wrist that did not hurry. It is easy to go quietly in your thoughts while you fold. The house, still holding what cannot be spoken of, seems to hum. There are footsteps somewhere, not close, not far. The animals outside shuffle in their straw, the coals doze, the water pitcher waits for thirst. Let this moment stretch. By the window, I watch the way morning light falls in a long, dull stripe across the mat. Nothing moves inside it, no dust, no moth, just the pale echo of sun. My fingers work while my eyes drift. The city outside is slow, too. Only the thin sound of a woman's laughter in the lane, already softening as she walks away. I hear someone breathe, deep and slow, in the next room. The linens hold their warmth a long time after a body's gone. There are pillow marks pressed into the top sheet, small secrets left by rest. I smooth them out as best I can. Not to erase them, just to return things to waiting. Even this silence is holy. There are fragments of sweet grass in the weave, brought in from yesterday's laundry, gathered with the careful hands of someone who pays close attention. I pick them out gently. The door is ajar. I listen. Wind plays in the cracks, but nothing asks for me. I tuck another layer, feeling how the stiffest cloth has grown soft from all its carrying. This linen, once new, had hopes of special days. Now it serves in quietness, never asking for notice. I notice it anyway. Yesterday's bread is still on the table, a crust left for birds who visit toward midday. The cup beside it is empty but holds a rim of light, a kind of halo. The basket grows neater while shadows move across the floor. My mind drifts to the places only my hands have seen. The sun-warmed stone of the outer step, the dark comfort beneath a bench, the high reach of the rafters where swallows nest. I think of feet stepping over the threshold, sandals lined up near the door, never in a straight row, but always coming home. Let the linen remember the hands that touched it. I pause for a breath, folding the last length just so, over itself, once and then again. The pile is small, but it gathers all the hours of waiting. Cloth does not speak, and yet it keeps stories. Some say miracles are loud like thunder, but some are quieter than sleep. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. I set the folded cloth in its place on the shelf, a place reserved quietly for things that matter but must never draw notice. Each layer presses lightly, a memory without words. I touch the topmost fold, holding it an extra moment before letting go. My hands are empty and still they feel full. Let the ordinary feel like belonging. There are more things to do. The sweep of the broom down the hall, the filling of oil into the small lamp for later, the careful measuring of lentils into a clay bowl. One thing follows another, soft as breath. I move among the shadows, feet bare against cool stone. Everything feels lighter today, as if having lost something. The house learned to listen in its bones. Nothing asks for hurry. The linen, now folded, is a small comfort, an answer to the question no one spoke aloud. What remains after sacred things pass through a room? Not music, not candles, not words. Only the hush that lingers with the folded cloth and the quiet relief that someone somewhere set things right before leaving. Even the dusk gleams softly at midday, unbothered by time. The night listens with you. I sit a while and rest my hands, watching sunlight pool in a shallow bowl, gold and harmless. Now and again, a shadow crosses the courtyard but does not come in. The day is half over. A bird sings somewhere above the lintel, spirited and plain. I hum a small tune, one no one will ever remember. There is a kind of satisfaction in the things too dull to name. Evening will bring more folding tunics after washing, the toweling of feet, a blanket revived by shaking it over the line. I will fill the water jar and set it near the door as always. I will brush crumbs from the table, pause at the step, glance at the linen, tucked and silent. And perhaps I will think of hands larger than mine folding the same cloth, long ago, not in hurry, knowing it would be seen. When the house grows dim and the oil lamps blush against the dusk, I'll settle the last cup in its place. The linen will sleep on its shelf. The floor will remember my steps. And the silence, holding every folded crease, will wait for another day to begin again its morning. But the fire is slower to wake than I am. I gather driftwood and broken stalks, stacking them on the cold stones, listening. Birds are quiet as if they remember yesterday too. The hearth's dust is soft on my hands, grainy, like flour but older. I work alone in the unhurried shade behind our house. I dry my hands on my tunic, feeling last night's smoke still woven in the fabric. The clay bowl waits, half full of water, and the grain is already milled. There's no rush. I wait for the warmth to come. Someone laughs in the street. It isn't for me. I press a thumb into the ashes. The heat's memory clings there. I wonder who will eat this bread first, if anyone will thank the fire or only the hands that shape the dough. Still, I breathe in, slow and steady, letting the world soften. The oil is gone, so I use only water. My fingers remember how much to pour. There's a rhythm to it, older than words. Each gesture measured, slow. The scoop and spill of flour, the swirl that gathers it into itself. No need for talking or hurrying. The day opens only as wide as I let it. I listen. For the pop of kindling, for a donkey's step, for nothing. The quiet is honest here. Let this moment stretch. I need, gentle and patient, while the fire forgets its sleep. The dough gives easily. My knuckles work in small circles. Enough movement to keep from thinking, but slow enough to notice the cold floor, the distant footsteps, the sigh of linen swaying from the rafters. No one asks me for prayers. No one needs me to make meaning. I let my thoughts wander, edges rounded by the repetition. The bread will be plain, unmarked by anyone's hopes but my own. Even this silence is holy. I recall a story. Someone saw folded cloth where a body should have been. Not such a mystery to me. I fold things every day, rags, sleeves, dough corners pressed against the bowl. It's what hands do when there is love or loss or waiting for breakfast. I let that story rest near me, not searching it for purpose. The cloth waited, the bread waits, the heart waits. The night listens with you. As the dough rises, so does the sun, barely and enough. Time passes between breaths. I feed the fire just a little, the way you feed trust. A handful at first, then a little more. Careful not to scorch the morning or myself. The morning opens gently, lighter than the hush before rain. I can feel it through the thin cracks in the shutters, pressing on the quiet walls. There's a cool patch by my feet on the floor. My jar rests where it always rests, beside the door. The old wood sighs beneath my hand as I lift it. It's just after dawn, like most days, but still softened by promise I don't need to name. I step outside and the sound is mostly nothing, just an occasional bird, stone against stone, my own slow breathing. The air is stitched with sleep, and not even the goats have stirred. Their shadows make familiar, round shapes in the empty yard. I walk carefully, one heel after the other, feeling the ground's uneven welcome. The stone path is always cold first thing. The smoothness tells of so many feet before mine. Some days I try to count the stones, but they're all knuckled and gray, patient in their silence. Let this moment stretch. Nothing presses me onward except the quiet work that waits everywhere. The cistern is down past the olive, near a patch where wild thyme grows. Morning light pools pale on the path. It never hurries. I move past the gate. The latch quivers in its hold but doesn't complain. By the branches, a spider net shimmers, catching dew and secrets. Sometimes I wish I could rest like that, a small life making order from the gentle mess of the world. Even this silence is holy. I pause beneath the fig tree. There are no figs yet, only the wide green leaves, thin enough to let the sun through. My fingers trace the shape of a scar on the trunk, an old mark from a shepherd's knife. The tree doesn't seem to mind. I listen to the distant sound of water, far-off voices, the soft hush of sandals like mine, all minding their own rhythm. The graveled slope leads down to the well-worn spot. There are memories curled up in the pathway, laughter, sighs from yesterday, the ache of news carried home too late to change. I step softly, not to awaken the echoes. Nothing asks for words here. The air is sweet with morning herbs. For a moment I remember the stone we rolled away last winter after the neighbor's child lost her ring beneath it. It took 3 of us, the stone heavier than it looked. Underneath, the earth was cold and undisturbed, but the ring glinted like hope where we'd least expected it. Someone always leaves something behind, and we find it folded quietly, waiting for another dawn. Let the quiet be enough. Each step is an old prayer, spoken in the language of souls and patience. The jar creaks in my hands but holds no complaint. Emptiness is not a burden. There is time for everything that matters. Near the cistern, there's a patch of clover where dew lingers longer. I crouch there for a moment, letting my eyes rest on the tiny blooms. They ask nothing of me, and I ask nothing of them. The water in the cistern is dark and still, holding the sky's reflection. I drop the cord and listen as the jar vanishes in the hush below, the rope playing out with the slow surrender of morning. The jar sinks, gathers water, then rises slowly, dripping with effort and old grace. My hands are wet, cool with the work, but my heart feels slower and lighter here. I remember how once the cloths in the meeting place were always folded after the feast, left ready for another night's use. No one ever rushed, but nothing was ever forgotten. A simple act, a gentle honoring, even when no one noticed. Let your breathing find its own pace. I sit a while longer, the weight of the full jar beside me. There is no hurry to return. The lanes are quiet, the homes softly watching behind latticed windows. A rooster crows in the distance. The stone path behind me knows I will walk it again, just as I have, just as all have. My world is small, the journey smaller still, but in the folding of moments there is room for everything. Even this breath carries the day. My fingertips brush the rim of the jar, tracing small imperfections made by the potter's thumbs. Every vessel holds its own story, but none of them shout. The linen I used last Sabbath, left folded neatly on the ledge, waits for another gentle task, creases holding memory where I cannot see. Let the stillness do the work. I watch the sun climb the side of the well, lighting grain by grain the stone's old scars. I think about how water fills what is empty and leaves what is whole even more whole. I let myself linger in the in-between, not quite ready for the return. Only a few feet away, weeds grow with gentle stubbornness between the stones. A voice calls from far off, though I can't make out the words. I know it's for someone else, not for me. I stay just where I am, feeling the day thicken and warm. A bird lands on a branch overhead. The light changes very little, but I notice anyway. You can rest here, too, no need to keep pace with morning or memory. The story carries itself forward, quietly, carried in jars and folded linen, in water and in stillness. Even the moments unseen are sacred, cradled in gentle repetition. Someone will come after me. The jar will be emptied, filled, and emptied again. The path will remember every step and every pause. But for now, I let myself breathe, slow, deep, unhurried. The jar at my side is heavier, but I do not carry it alone. Something shares the work with me, softer than speech, quieter than the turning air. Night feels far away, yet its comfort tugs at the edge of the morning. The day will be long with its work, yet already I know. Even if I do nothing else but carry water and keep quiet, the day is held. The wind is half awake, carrying stories over the roofs, asking nothing, giving everything. Let your eyes drift. Let the silence fill them until only peace remains. Somewhere, linen lies folded just so, never forgotten. Somewhere, the stone path waits, unchanged, holding memory for those who have forgotten how to remember. The jar is full. The shadows are shorter. There is nothing more to do, not yet. I stand, letting my body remember the way home. I do not look back, but I know the place is unchanged behind me, maybe changed in ways I'll never see. I carry the water as if there is no weight at all, walking through the soft light, letting the gentle, sacred boredom settle over me. Every day the same. Every day wholly in the quiet between footfalls, every day more than enough, even if no one ever notices. There's a wall on the southern road, almost hidden behind a clump of wild honeysuckle. No one really looks at it, not on purpose, but it sits there, gathering quiet more than anything else. The stones are warm and smooth, held in place by centuries of careful hands, hands that were probably just as tired as mine by the end of the day. Mostly, I pass by this wall on my way to fetch water, balancing the heavy clay jar against my hip. The wall doesn't mind the noise of morning, children darting ahead, sandals kicking up little rivers of dust, bits of bread and laughter breaking the stillness. But then it gets easy again, so easy to fall into step with the hush. Early in the day, the sun sits low, just starting to peek over the roofs and date palms, making everything look soft around the edges. I hear people shifting crates and sweeping doorways, a familiar, everyday chorus. Nothing changes much. The same voices, the same caws from the crows at the edge of town, nothing unsettled. I always take that as permission to breathe deeper, to let the world get a little smaller. Even silence, I tell myself, is holy. I lean for a moment, letting the side of my leg rest against the stones, just out of sight. Not because anything is wrong, it's only that I want to feel the warmth pass through me, sun-baked comfort in the form of a wall. My fingers trace the cracks, flat and bright, old as memory. Sometimes I wonder how long these stones will listen. Generations, maybe. Longer than any voice that has woken and faded here. I don't speak. I never do, not really. Instead, I just listen. Really listen to whatever wants to fill the space. There's nothing to fix, nothing to do. The goats on the hill chew dry grass. An old neighbor fusses over a pot of onions. I can hear a girl singing a crooked melody. She loses a note, laughs, keeps singing anyway. Life goes on, wide and small as ever. Let this moment stretch, as easy as the sun creeping up the stones. I shift my weight, careful not to tip the jar. Even the quiet feels like a gift, handed to me in plain wrapping, the kind you open just by leaning in. A soft breeze sneaks past, picking up a corner of my shawl and making the shadows dance. I think about the men I saw heading toward the tomb that morning, moving quickly, but with their heads low. One of them lingered at the threshold, as if waiting for something, but mostly there was just a hush, the kind of silence that makes you set your burdens down and listen with your whole self. No one noticed me across the road near this wall. I watch from a distance, from behind my little drift of wildflowers and clover. No miracles for me, just these moments thick with slow meaning. The city doors creak open, the day beginning in slow, patient sighs. Others join me by the well. We nod, share a gentle smile or two, but no one fills up the quiet with words. Maybe we're all listening, even if we don't know it. I set my jar beside my feet and sit for a while longer than I'd planned. My knees tucked up, chin resting on my arms, waiting for nothing, letting time pass however it likes. Sacred boredom, I remind myself, the kind God understands best. Across from me, a fig tree leans into the sun, branches heavy but not yet ripe. Someone rests in its shade, face hidden beneath a slouching hat. I wonder what brings them here, maybe just the same wanting for peace that brought me. It's enough just to share space, silent and soft. Even this silence is holy. Somewhere on the breeze I hear a whispered prayer, thin and unfinished. The stones beneath me hold it without question. It's as if every wall in this place has a secret memory, quiet tears, half-born hopes, the kinds of wishes nobody says out loud. My hands feel dry against my skirt, so I trace shapes in the dust with my toe, circles, a long, slow line, nothing meaningful, just motion. Maybe if I keep drawing, a pattern will reveal itself. Or maybe there's not meant to be one. There's comfort in not knowing, like feeling the edge of a blanket when you're drifting off. The air grows softer, colors settling into themselves. Behind me, the city goes on, bakers shouting for flour, little ones chasing each other between rows of lettuce. I let it all become a distant hum, as if the world has closed its eyes for a short while. Let every breath linger, let your shoulders drop. I could stay here forever, I think. No one asks why I rest. No one expects an answer. The wall is enough of a companion, steady and present. It doesn't judge my slowness. It just is. I watch a stray cat appear on the far side, stepping softly and pausing to blink at the sun. She settles in, tail flicking, then lies down in the patch of light. I almost laugh. She looks as if she's praying, or maybe just sleeping, letting the day carry her along. A friend passes by with a basket of figs, nods once, keeps moving. I imagine following her, but my bones are slow and the sun is just right. For a moment, I forget the water I came to fetch, or the chores waiting at home. Everything important has already happened, or maybe it hasn't yet. Hard to say. I'm just glad to be here while it's easy. The night listens with you. There's a kind of blessing in leaning into silence, especially when no one is watching, when the world asks nothing but your softness and your time. I close my eyes and let the peace settle in, deeper than any lesson I've learned. I ask nothing and still feel full. Somewhere someone lifts the linen cloths from a stone, careful, quiet, not making a show of it. The rest of us just wait, breathing, living, resting by our own simple walls. Even if you drift off now, the day, the wall, the sun, they'll keep holding what you leave behind. Let this stillness walk with you as long as you need. The day was half done by the time I found the pile, a small stack of tunics and shawls, all softened thin by many washings, every edge quietly unraveling. I set myself in the shade, close to where the others talked in slow, even voices. The linen in my lap felt cool in the morning. My needle glinted, stubborn in the dust. There were always things to mend. Hems fell loose, holes grew themselves beside the knees, and sometimes a sleeve threatened to part from the shoulder without warning. No one ever scolded the cloth. We only worked the thread back through, one patient loop after another, like coaxing a vine back to a trellis. I told myself the tunics liked to be touched, tended, claimed back from their slow letting go. Someone hummed nearby. Not a song really, just the sound someone makes when their mind is halfway elsewhere and their feet are still on cool earth. The others let it fill the space. I wondered if they even noticed it, that melody stretched over the tremble of fabric, the pause of a breath, the tug of the needle. Let this moment stretch. My companion was old, her face loose at the jaw but her eyes still awake. She'd outlived 2 husbands and the riot of early years, and was as steady as a kettle snugged into coals. Her hands never hurried, not even when we ran out of daylight. "You'll sew straighter if you don't think about it too much," she used to say. I believed her. This morning she sat with me, knees pressed to the dust, patching a child's tunic that was more whole than shirt. She didn't speak, but every so often she would sigh, like she remembered something gentle, and maybe beautiful, and then forgot the shape of it before she could say its name. Sometimes people drifted close and left again. Someone passed behind us carrying a stack of plates. A child ran by, a flash at the edge of vision, and a cat eased up to watch, not for company, but for the chance of a dropped scrap. Nothing called for attention, but everything belonged to the afternoon. Even this silence is holy. I lost track of time, but not of thread. White linen, patched with scraps the color of earth, little stitched islands, thick where it mattered, thin where fingers grazed. The seams I made would look crooked by the dinner hour, but they would hold. I liked the hidden things, knots tucked inside folds, the way the needle found a path and you didn't have to see the whole journey, just trust your hands knew how to finish. My grandmother used to mend quietly at dusk, her mouth moving in prayers I never learned. Maybe she hid her best words inside the whir of her own needle, letting supplication slip between the joining of cloth. Some habits travel farther than blood. A friend sat near, not for company really, just to rest, a shoulder's width away, elbow on knee, cheek against palm. In another house, the same silence might be lonely, but here it padded the shade like stored wool on a winter shelf. Between stitches, the air settled. I watched dust twist through sunlight, a lazy world moving just slow enough to feel real. A murmur of voices rose from the next room, low, almost musical. Sometimes I tried to pick out names or stories, but mostly it was a comfort, that gentle disagreement and laughter. You could almost believe the whole day would stay that mild. You don't have to stay awake for this story. It will stay awake for you. One of the men stopped in the doorframe and left an old scarf in my lap. He gave a small, tired smile, the kind that means thank you but doesn't ask for more. I nodded. He asked for nothing and still felt full. When the scarf was new, it had been dyed with indigo, but now it was a quieter blue, softened by near-constant wear, edges gone white as milk. I rolled it, found the start of a tear, and made the first careful stitch. The cat, still hoping, circled closer, tail curling in question. My companion reached out and stilled its back with one calloused hand. "No scraps today," she whispered, more to herself than the cat. The animal blinked, unhurried, laid down close enough for warmth but not for touch, and began to dream. Let the silence keep you. From time to time, my friend passed me another tunic, or picked up the thread spool when it tried to roll away. It's easy, sitting this close, to forget how much you need someone, not for conversation or wisdom, only to carry on as two people doing something side by side. I wondered if this was what peace looked like, if not for the world, then for a day. Or just for the hour when two needles move together in and out, with no promise of perfection, only the sure rhythm of tending what wears out. I could hear the faint ring of metal from the next courtyard, someone striking a tuning fork against stone, then using it to check the pitch of the evening's lyre. The sound shivered in the air, touching everything, as if reminding cloth and bone and soil that all can be returned to harmony, piece by piece, chord by chord, even if no one truly notices. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. I let my eyes close for a moment, listening to the story unfold in quiet labor, the slow trickle of voices, the lull of needlework, the steady, golden blur of sunset drifting over old walls. Each tunic, each patch, stitched a little mercy back into the world. We worked until the pile was gone or the light grew thin, whichever happened last. The night listens with you. The sun drifted high, too tired to be fierce. Just outside the ripple of voices, I found a patch of softened light, a shallow circle cast by fig branches, where heat gentled into shadow. The grass here was pressed flat already, like someone who had risen quietly at dawn and left no sign but a hush where their rest had been. I sat, knees bent, back rounded. The ground underneath held the warmth of morning, giving it up slow. Along the hem of my robe, stray crumbs collected from a half-loaf folded in cloth, nothing special, only a heel left after breakfast, wrapped loosely against the day's dust. I drew out a fig, split it with my nails. Sweetness pressed against my fingers and ran slow across my tongue. A piece of fennel, chewed and green, softened the taste until everything was only quiet. Somewhere far off, two children argued about nothing at all, their laughter slipping like river water over smooth stones. A donkey's bray answered, then faded. Here the hush swelled back, patient and wide. On the other side of the meadow, sunlight touched a heap of linen set to dry. Some were folded with care, creases edged in gold from the afternoon. Others spilled untucked, but nobody minded. Even this, I thought, was enough. Nobody hurries cloth or bread or rest out here. Their time is long and wide as the shade. A fly began its slow circuit above my cup. I tipped the water gently, watched small ripples unsettle the quiet, then still themselves. The mint from last night's supper lingered at the bottom, a green remembered taste almost prayerful. Every bite came easy. There was no rush to swallow, no waiting for more. I thought of those who had vanished into stories in the city, how people talked about miracles and folded things up again, never quite sure where the wonder had gone. Out here, the only miracle was time, and how it softened hunger into fullness, boredom into trust. I leaned my head back, eyes blinking slow. A leaf drifted down, yellow and unneeded. I let it fall beside me and didn't move. Let this moment stretch. Let every worry fold itself quiet at your side. Even this silence is holy. Between breaths, I heard my own heart, steady as bread pressed by a gentle hand. I had nothing left to do. No one watched. The linen waited and I waited beside it. There was nowhere else to be, and that was enough. When the sun is barely over the roofs, the day is quiet. I sit beside a low table, knees tucked under old linen. There's nothing special about this spot. The stone floor is cool. Bread, crumbs, and dust, always a little mess left over from the morning. No one asks me to hurry. No one watches my work. A shred of old parchment waits for ink. The lamps aren't needed yet. There's enough light coming in. The room smells of last night's oil and the faint sweetness of figs in the corner bowl. I dip the brush. Slow and careful, ink seeps into the space between my knuckles. It stains the edge of my thumb, a mark I'll carry through the day. The black is thick at first, nearly shining, then it settles, matte as velvet. My task is simple: copy and then copy again. The world could rush outside, but here time folds over itself. There's no prize for finishing. No one keeps track. It's only me, dust, and quiet words, words that have passed from hand to hand, always written a little differently but meant to last. I copy the line about linens left folded just as I heard it told. Not grand, not loud. Just the memory of fabric folded with care, left inside a silent room. The words curve gently under my fingers. I trace them, letter by letter, feeling how the silent things matter. The blanket at sunrise, the careful hands, the hush that lingers where hope once waited. Let this moment stretch as wide as the morning. Even when I pause, there is no emptiness. Each breath seems noticed by the sun as it wanders across the wall. Dust spins in the light, a slow, drifting dance. Out in the courtyard, feet whisper along the stones. I don't lift my head. My mind follows the words as if they were pebbles in a shallow stream. I know them now, could finish the verse without looking, but I still check each line. When I make a tiny mistake, I let it stay. A pause. A deep breath. It is all part of the page. Sometimes I wipe my fingers on the hem of my robe, leaving faint dark smudges that no one else will notice. I feel the cool clay of the ink cup, the paper softness of the reed, the gentle drag as it moves across papyrus. Let this stillness do the work. The house murmurs quietly. Women laugh in the next room, and a goat brays, bored and wanting out. Nothing interrupts the words. The lamp flickers now and then, though I do not need it yet. My wrist aches just a little, in a way that feels like a kind friend, reminding me to slow down. I stretch and let sore muscles settle. To copy scripture is not to understand it all at once. My mind drifts elsewhere. Did I buy enough lentils? Will the well be crowded at noon? I think of mending a sandal strap later, of washing fruit, and then I remember myself here, a scribe for no one but the hour itself. Even this silence is holy. I smooth the sheet. Tiny flecks rise and catch the sun. I listen to the nothing that wraps the room. Each page I finish gets stacked under a clay bowl. A fingerprint left here, a brush line there. The story disappears behind my hands, word by word. I press palm to paper just to feel the coolness, then I wait. The ink dries while the world outside holds its breath. Even a sparrow on the roof stops for a moment, as if the hush matters to him, too. The day is never long enough to do everything, but every letter here feels infinite, drawn out, held like pearls on a thin string. Let every line feel like silence made holy. When the sun moves, shadows reach over my shoulder. A bowl tips and rattles. My eyes blink, heavy from watching words become shapes, shapes into meaning. I rub my neck and look out the window. Laundry ripples on the line. The city goes about its business. A neighbor leans in a doorway, speaking to no one in particular. There's time for water, for sitting endlessly. My hands are stained. My hair feels stiff from heat, but the words come steady, familiar as dusk, gentle as sleep. Sometimes I forget what I am writing, and then just before the last line I remember. Linen folded. A quiet room left as it was. Someone pausing before they left, careful not to wake anyone. It makes me feel small in a safe way, like being a child, hidden behind a curtain, listening for footsteps in the hall. Let the night listen with you. My prayer is not written. I say nothing aloud, but each breath, each slow brush stroke is heard. When I finish for the day, I lay the brush aside, close the ink, cover the bowl. There is a mark, dust and ink together, left on my palm. I do not clean it off right away. I leave it just to remember where I've been. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The day goes on. The story waits to be copied again tomorrow. Morning came slow, quiet as a friend who doesn't knock. The sun was low, drawing soft lines across the stone. My hands found the basin beside the jar, cool from the night's rest. Oil, golden and silent, caught a patch of light. For someone, for something, but I didn't know what for. Only that it must be ready. The work isn't loud. Cloth in one hand, a steady pour in the other. The oil slips along the rim, gathers, then hushes itself to stillness. I pause between breaths. Let this moment stretch. Nobody asked me to do this. Maybe that's why it feels so gentle. I think sometimes that the world spins because of such small things. Oil that waits, cloths folded, a basin clean but not empty. In the courtyard, the sound of sandals brushing dust. It's Mare, arms full of reeds, her voice even quieter than mine. We nod, not with purpose, but because morning always moves people in gentle circles. Even this silence is holy. I dip my finger in the basin, turn the oil around the sides. It leaves a line, faint as a breath. I wonder if anyone notices when the basin shines brighter, or if it's only me, awake before the busy ones. The clay jars along the wall look patient too. None of them know what they'll hold next. You could put grain or water or a secret. Today, oil. Tomorrow, it might be light catching a folded cloth by the window. Let this day pass gently, I think. Let nothing happen quickly. Let my heart not ask for answers. Mare drops her reeds and the sound is almost music. She sits, pulls figs from her sleeve. We eat without talking. Chewing, pausing, chewing again. Figs taste like the sun if you wait long enough. She leaves half a fig beside the basin. I leave it there. The oil glows a little more. I remember a story someone told by the well, about burial cloths left behind and folded in a place no one bothered to look. Not a miracle that drew crowds, but one that made a hollow room feel gentler. Somehow, oil prepared and cloths folded feel much the same. Trust and readiness, but for what I don't need to know. Let the bowl wait. The air is thick with quiet, not yet full with the sounds and heat of day. My shoulders drop. The night listens with you. A neighbor boy walks by, dragging a stick, tracing lines in dust. He glances at my work, curious but too shy to ask. That's how most things happen out here. Questions people are too tired to form but still keep. I show him my hands, glossed and golden. He smiles, then keeps going. I stand the basin in the sun's reach, watch as a thin skin forms at the top. Ready but not needed. That's a good thing, I tell myself, and let the thought move on. Sometimes trust looks like a basin full, untouched. Sometimes readiness is just staying near. I wipe the rim, slow and gentle as if to hush it back to sleep. The cloth carries a scent of olives, the faintest memory of pressing stones and late autumn. My fingers slow, smoothing the last drops. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Out beyond the wall, voices grow louder. Someone is calling for water, another asks after bread. But here, by the basin, the day stays quiet. The oil waits, content in its slow shining. I find a second cloth, fold the edges, tuck them close. Sometimes I press my palm flat on the cool stone, just to feel how little the world demands from me in this moment. Let sleep come quietly. I feel Mare brush past, her basket empty now. She stops and watches my hands, says nothing. Most days, sharing the quiet is better than any news. We hear a distant dove flapping slow, no hurry, just wings and wind. We both close our eyes a moment. A breeze moves through the small yard, lifts the scent of oil. It floats out over dusty steps, finds the ones busy with worry and work. Maybe they'll feel ready too, without knowing why. You don't need to stay awake for the story. It will stay awake for you. The bowl will wait. The oil will gleam. The day will stretch soft and holy for as long as someone is willing to prepare what's needed, without knowing when or if it will be used. And still, somehow, the heart feels full. The air shifts when evening comes, not all at once, but in a slow, careful way, as if the sky is learning to rest too. I sit just by the old wooden gate, my knees folded up, arms wrapped around them. There's always a little ache after kneeling all day, folding cloth, rinsing bowls with the last of the well water. The world is quieter now. Chickens hunched in their pen, a goat chewing one last patch of grass that the sun forgot. Sometimes you can hear the city sigh when dusk settles in. Everyone just a bit softer, speaking in lower voices, footsteps less urgent. Even the stones seem more forgiving underfoot. From here, I see the sandals passing through. Some returning, some going, not much need to hurry anymore. Traders packing away figs, a mother calling children inside. No one really notices the gate itself, but I like the way it stands, always open in the evening, catching the last orange light. Folding linen at dusk is a special thing. You do it slower, as if the fabric remembers every set of hands before yours. Sometimes when the wind moves through, it's like a quiet blessing, cool, gentle, unspoken. Let this moment stretch for as long as you need. Dusk is slower than night and softer than remembering. I watched a child draw shapes in the dust today, not urgent, just lines and circles with a finger, the kind that wash away by morning wind. Even his small hands seemed unhurried in the falling light. Most days the world moves too quickly, baskets stacked, water fetched, errands tapping at your mind. But not now. Now each breath feels noticed, as if God is sitting nearby, admiring the silence. Even the sparrows know when the world grows still. The city wall casts a long shadow. It's cooler by the stone, so I let my back rest there. From inside, the temple lamps are being kindled, soft gold against the evening blue. The light doesn't reach out here, but sometimes that's better. You can let go more easily in the half-darkness, where the day can pass without questions. Someone on the other side of the gate is humming. I don't know the tune. It drifts through the wood grain, steady and low. There's a kind of prayer in that, a melody that doesn't ask for anything. Let even the silence be holy. Let your limbs feel heavy, just as the sun sets. At times, I pick at loose threads in the cloth, making nothing out of nothing just to keep my hands busy. Somewhere, a dog barks gently, as though she too doesn't want to disturb the air that's grown so soft. I remember when the women came back from the tomb, voices trembling with something too big to name. I didn't see inside, but someone mentioned linen folded, set apart. It's strange how a small thing, a cloth, properly placed, can make a room feel full, even when no one is there. No miracles, not here, just the memory of linen quietly waiting. John 26:7. Let your eyes grow heavy with the color of dusk. The night listens with you. Someone walks by with a basket covered in fig leaves. Each step a little slower, each voice a little lower, as if everyone agrees not to wake the dark. I wait, not for anything in particular, just for the day to finish slipping through the gate. There's nothing I need to change, nothing asked of me. Sometimes the holiest thing is simply watching the world pass, letting it leave gently. No one asks why I sit here, but maybe they understand. There's nothing to guard at this hour, only to notice how the earth cools beneath my feet, how the air feels gentler without the sun. You don't have to follow every passing sound. Most are just soft reminders that the day was real and is nearly gone. I close my eyes for a breath or two. The gate creaks, but I am not alarmed. That's just the door remembering how to be open. If you want, you can let go now. Let this moment drift wider. Even the street dust knows to settle at dusk, slowly, quietly, against the rounding heel of a day that's ready to sleep. He asked for nothing and still felt full. As the last bit of light slips past the top of the gate, I gather up the linens, one at a time. There's no hurry. Each fold is a soft goodbye to the day. You are allowed to rest here. Even if you don't notice, there is blessing lingering at the edges, carried in the hush, in the empty basket, in the stillness beneath the fig tree where no one sits tonight. The Lord loves slow endings. Let your breath follow the fading sun, easy and quiet. The night is long but not empty. Somewhere a prayer is whispered for no one to hear. Still it is heard. Even now the gate stands waiting. Nothing happens and somehow everything matters. The sun was gone, or almost. The light left low, sliding off the stones just outside the doorway. There was the sounds of a few voices, spoken soft, not much left to say. I had nothing important to finish, but I stayed a bit longer. Folding the linen took its time. Not a rush. Hands quiet, corners to corners. Everyone else was tired or missing or already home. I felt full, not from food but from all the small things finished today, even the ones nobody saw. Sometimes silence is heavy, but tonight it made the room seem lighter. Still, my own breathing filled most of the sound. He had been here, of course, someone always remembers. I'd seen the little cloth separate from everything else, not tossed aside, not torn, just folded, waiting. It made everything else seem gentle too. I copied it, folding into thirds, then thirds again, less for neatness, more for care. That was enough. Let this moment stretch. The air was cool on my arms. No lamps now. Dark was fine. There were no steps left to take. Sometimes I wonder if the quiet is the message, not the words. Somewhere sandals brush the doorstep. Maybe just a neighbor, maybe just the wind. Even this silence is holy. I could have talked. I didn't. The days with words were over for now. I only brushed dust from the table edge. The edge of the cloth rested against my elbow, almost like memory. Nothing happened. Still, I felt everything mattered in that faint, invisible way. You finish up the day, wipe the last crumb from the bench, you stack the bowls though no one asks you to. The night listens with